Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.
What's up, everybody? I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
And this is the Magic Mike Show, episode 493, Mr. Somich.
Huzzah!
We're 7 away from 500. Will horse racing last to episode 500? I'm really not sure at this point.
It's about minus 110 each side right now. It's been a brutal couple of weeks.
Yeah, it has, and it feels eerily similar to what we went through 2 weeks ago with after the Whitney weekend. But hey, we'll try and keep spirits up, or at least talk about everything else. We will talk about what happened with New York Thunder, but a huge weekend. We had 6 Grade 1 races at Saratoga over the weekend. We covered the pick 6 on the podcast. Bolshoi Ballet winning made it so I wasn't going to cash that either way. And then we also had the Pat O'Brien Stakes at Del Mar and the Pacific Classic we can kind of look ahead to. So we'll put a nice little look ahead cherry on top of this Sunday here. Mike, how was your weekend?
It was good, man. I got to spend it in Vegas. Got to bet on some football. Pretty excited about that. Had a pretty good baseball day on Sunday, so happy about that. Horse racing was good. Was able to hit the late pick 4 at Del Mar on Sunday, so that kind of made the day or the weekend a little salvageable. I didn't get to watch Saturday's card at Saratoga live because what I was doing in Vegas, and I gotta say, I'm kind of happy I missed the New York Thunder incident. I don't know if my stomach could have handled another situation like that with what we saw from Maple Leaf Mel. I've obviously heard quite a bit about it, but have not watched the replay and don't really have any interest in watching the replay. We'll talk more about that race, obviously, coming up. I think the 3-year-old picture is really interesting. Massive race from Disarm. We'll talk about the 3-year-olds there. Obviously, Arcangelo ran well. I was more impressed with what Disarm did, though. But we'll get there. So eventually, we get to the Travers, and I got to say, my Go Rocket Ride at number 1 looking a lot better than the Forte at number 1 that we did just a week ago here.
Okay, we'll talk about that because I'm going to ask you if you still think it, but we'll wait. We'll save that till we get to the Travers Stakes to ask you about that. You're right. Yes, he is definitely. I think you need to rank him above Forte after what happened there. But listen, big show. Let's get into it, Mike. Lots to talk about. Rise up. And Mike, starting things off on Friday, August 25th, race 9, the feature race at Saratoga was the Grade 1 Personal Ensign Stakes. And it was supposed to be a showdown between Clariere and Ness from the Shuvi Handicap. And Idiomatic said, nah, don't forget about me over here. It's a sloppy sealed track, and it's going to be mostly a super highway on the dirt on this weekend at Saratoga. I'm going to show you why. And she goes gate to wire, wins quite handily, 4 lengths there in the end. What do you take away from this race, Mike?
Not a ton. I thought the Idiomatic ran really well. I think we have to respect Idiomatic moving forward. Very nice effort to be able to go gate to wire in the way that she did. Nest just didn't quite look like Nest the whole race, and you kind of saw that from the finish there. The gap between the top 3 back to the last 3 was what was really surprising me. 12 lengths there between Nest and Mallory, and really Clariere, who's the storyline there, ends up running 5th. But Secret Oath ran really well. But look, this is one of those spots, we talked about this in the Pick 6 preview. To me, it was you either take Nest or you use Nest and Idiomatic and maybe Secret Oath, Nest and Idiomatic, maybe 63 Caliber. And it kind of played out in that manner. I'm wondering what the price on Idiomatic is next time out, because this is going to look awesome on paper. You're going to have back-to-back-to-back 100 buyers. The surface and the pace setup probably helped Idiomatic quite a bit. When we move forward and we go to the Breeders' Cup, you're going to have a lot more horses in the race. You're probably going to have more speed in the race. You're probably going to have Idiomatic at 3-1, 2.5-1 against a tougher field. So not sure Idiomatic's playable moving forward, but you can't take anything away for the win here in the Personal Ensign.
Yeah, she looked good. She did what she needed to do, and she had lone speed advantage on paper. She took advantage of it from the rail. Flo did the right thing. And she'd shown several times this year that she's still undefeated at 2 turns, I think, in 5 starts now this year. She showed that she can just power away there. If you leave her alone early, she does what she's supposed to do. Takes advantage of that lone pace. So I thought she did a great job. Boy, a rough weekend for Todd Pletcher horses. I don't think a single Pletcher horse really, other than the 2-year-old on Saturday, Fierceness. I really don't think any of them other than that horse really liked the track at all. Saratoga with the slop, the mud. It was a very cuppy track. You heard that from a lot of trainers over the weekend. For this, I'm kind of with you. I think I'm just going to draw a line through this for a lot of these horses. I thought Secret Oath ran well, but she took advantage of Nest struggling over the track. Clairiere was a no-show. Do you think Clairiere is done? I know it's a very pointed question. Is she done, or will you give her one more shot?
No, she's not done. I mean, look, she was the second choice in this race, and people thought that, like, legitimately we're making arguments. This is a 2-horse race, and Clairiere had a shot at running big. So I'm not going to go from elite contender in this group to done that quickly. I think that you got to be careful at what price you take her. I think you have to be careful with the field she's facing at what price you take her, because to me, when she has won against the big girls, she has done it because of the setups in situational races versus being the just dominant horse in that field. So I think done may be a little bit of an over exaggeration, but I definitely don't think that she's where she was being rated going into this race.
I would expect at this point that you would see Idiomatic and Nest go to the Spinster Stakes at Keeneland. That's a British Cup winner for the Distaff. Clairiere, maybe she goes there. Maybe she goes to Belmont for the Beldame. She's got a few options there. 63 Caliber, absolute no-show. This is a step up in Class 4, but she's struggled several times over wet, sloppy tracks. So I think she's like a grade 3 type. I think, I understand why the connections put her into this grade 1 spot. Just didn't work out for her, and she doesn't like a muddy track anyway. So I will give her a pass as long as she drops back down in class a little bit next out. So we'll see about that one.
Yeah, I think one of the themes of this Saratoga weekend is going to be drawing a line through it, because I think there's a lot of races here where you're just like, yeah, okay, it happened, but I'm not going to take this data point as one of my big data points to move forward on, just because the way the track was playing and how you mentioned it. Like, you hear it a lot with Churchill, you hear it with Delmar, where like sometimes horses just don't like the track. Saratoga, you rarely hear, oh, the horse hated the track. It seemed like a lot of horses hated the track, and you saw career worst efforts from a lot of the horses over the weekend, and that tells me that you can't take everything with a grain of salt over what happened this weekend, and that you have to just be hesitant to say, okay, these are 100% solid data points, because of what we've seen from a lot of these horses prior to it just don't match with what we saw over the weekend.
Well, Nest not the only horse to go down this weekend at Saratoga to a gate-to-wire winner on the dirt, because on Saturday, race 7, the first grade 1 race of the day, Elite Power goes down to Gunite with a super impressive effort from that horse. And unlike with Nest, where I think, okay, she just struggled on the track and didn't show up, I thought both horses really threw down here. I thought that Gunite won because of Tyler Gaffleone's really superb ride. Like, he off the turn, he pulled an IRAD out of the playbook, like right at the first chapter of the IRAD Ortiz Jr. playbook is off the turn on the lead, go 4-5 wide out and force them to go inside. IRAD went inside, and you saw that horse, maybe it was the track, which was, it's listed fast, but there was some moisture in there for sure. The rail looked like it was pretty bad spot to be on. Also, Elite Power carrying 6 pounds more than Gunite, and I think those two things combined, Gunite with that easy lead, you see 23.1, 46.2. Tyler Gaffleone, I think, is the reason this horse won as much as anything, Mike.
Yeah, you mentioned the Irad-esque, Saez-esque move off the turn to force the horse to pass you on the inside. Well, I'll one-up you with that one and say the Johnny Velasquez early ride, where Gunite clearly the fastest horse, and Pipeline kind of up there with Gunite. But Tyler Gaffleone doesn't ask Gunite for speed at any point and uses the natural speed of the horse to get to the inside and get toward the lead. You know you've got Rosario on Pipeline. He's not going to really go nuts up front. He's going to then back off. And Gunite able to essentially go very much within himself early in this race, I thought was the difference there. Because then when Gaffleone was able to recognize Elite Power right behind him, he's like, okay, cool. I'm going to go 3-4 wide. If you want to go 5 wide, go for it. And if you want to try and go inside, go for it. But I've got a ton of horse left because of how well I was able to really rate that speed and use the natural speed early. And that's what really propelled Gunite to the victory here, was the way that Tyler rode early to get out of the gate and get the lead in a comfortable manner, and the way he rode late to force Irad to make a decision. Do you want the dead rail, or do you want to go 5 wide? And I could keep floating you out and hurting you too, by the way, if you do want to go 5 wide.
Another Irad playbook move.
Which really forces Irad's hand to go inside, and then Gunite able to just kind of extend and pull away. I thought it was really impressive. I was surprised by this. I thought Elite Power was going to be able to run Gunite down again. I felt Gunite had a pace advantage last time and was able to do it. But the way that Gaffleone managed the pace and then managed the stretch made a massive difference versus last time these two faced each other.
The way that it kind of went down in terms of Tyler I'll say it, outriding Irad Ortiz Jr. It reminded me of the Derby City Distaff on Derby weekend at Churchill when, if you remember, Matareya got the win and Goodnight Olive was the best horse and loaded. And Tyler on Wicked Halo kept Goodnight Olive pinned on the rail so she couldn't get out in the stretch. It was like, he's outriding Irad, and that's twice now that he's shown in a major Grade 1 race on a huge day. It's like, I'm going to stick your ass on the inside, and you're not going by me, boy. So that was, as somebody who had, Gun Knight as well as Elite Power on their ticket and Gun Knight being the better price, I was very happy with what I had seen from here. As far as the sprint goes from a bigger picture, is Elite Power still the division leader? Did Gun Knight take him over? I mean, this was 7 furlongs. The Breeders' Cup Sprint, the Elite Power won last year. It's going to be at 6, and that seems like it might be better distance for him.
Might be more than 5 horses, too. I think that was a big part of this year where Elite Power, look, Gun Knight's game is to go to the front and go, right? Or be at least forwardly placed beyond the pace and go. Elite Power wants to be coming from behind and doesn't want to have to do the dirty work and then be able to come from behind. And in the Breeders' Cup Sprint, that sets up exceptionally well for a horse like Elite Power. Because guess what? Sprinters generally have speed. Usually you got a couple horses that want to go. And out in California, there's not very good sprinters, but there's some fast horses early that are going to inject pace into that race. I think that all plays into Elite Power's hands. I'm hoping we get these two about the same price in the Breeders' Cup Sprint. And if we do, give me Elite Power all day, every day.
Yeah, Michael Olsen, kind of echoing your statement there, and I agree with you guys as well. 6 furlongs, Elite Power is going to like better. He's going to have that late kick's going to have more of a punch, right, when he's going 6 furlongs at Santa Anita. And yeah, there's always a lot of speed that shows up for this Breeders' Cup Sprint, even if there's horses that probably shouldn't be there. Those are the ones that really go in there as speedballs. We'll see who comes out of the Bing Crosby, and we'll see what happens with the California horses, because you could see the Chosen Brawn show up, and you're expecting to see him there. But lots to think about. Moving for the Breeders' Cup Sprint. Race 8 was an allowance. We'll skip that one. Race 9, this was the H. Allen Jerkens Memorial Stakes, and this is where things really went bad for the day for a lot of people. And if you quit after watching this race, after this race happened, don't blame you. I kind of wanted to, but unfortunately, this is my job. So here I was, still doing it. New York Thunder, very eerily similar to what happened with Maple Leaf Mel. In his first Grade 1, undefeated, super talented, steps up and is demolishing the field off the turn. And not unlike with Maple Leaf Mel, there were 2 Bob Baffords that he was making look like 50K claimers. I mean, Arabian Lion was trying to keep up with him. Arabian Lion was 5 lengths behind him at the top of this stretch and was just completely fading and falling behind. And then New York Thunder goes wrong and not just goes wrong, but it was a very horrific way in which he went wrong. Near the 16th pole, 1 in Vermilion, a horse that when I was watching it live, Mike, I commented and said, he's a speed horse. He's at the rear. He's at the back, and this is a conveyor belt kind of a track. Like I didn't think he had a chance anyways, but I didn't love it at all where he was at. Turns out that happened to be the right move because Irad Ortiz Jr. was able to pilot him past and get a pretty big win, but the only thing to really take from this, and I didn't see this, I'm guessing you didn't either. Curtis Manlow's saying in the chat, Irad got upset that he couldn't have a winner's circle celebration. I did not know that, but that's pretty shitty, if that's true.
Yeah, just a terrible situation. When we talked about Maple Leaf Mel, I cannot remember seeing that, right? Where you had a horse who was cruising to a Grade 1 and breaks down. And for it to happen on the undercard on the 2 biggest days at Saratoga over a multi-week, just 2-3 weeks apart stretch is just horrific. And the fact that, look, New York Thunder and Maple Leaf Mel were special horses too. What they were doing when it happened was absolutely special. And it's a shame for the sport. It's a shame that NYRA is not handling this better. I'd love to know more. Like the fact that now NYRA's coming out and saying, well, you've got to have your veterinarian sign that they've seen the horse at least work before they enter them. It's like, what happened to all these race day checks that NYRA's talking about all the time on Fox? Like they take care of the horses in that manner. Is that not happening? Are you just lying about that? So a lot of questions that I would love answered from the NYRA perspective that we just have not gotten. And the first thing they say after that Travers Day is 1 in 11 are off the turf. We'll have scratches shortly. That's the statement. And that's really disappointing just from a horse fan. Outside of all the gambling aspect of it, you want to know how we are preventing this. What are we doing to make sure that this isn't going to happen again? And how are we trying to adjust the track? Do we think it was the track? Do we believe there was something wrong with the horse? Was there ever anything in the vet reports that pointed at this? What did the vet report look like for New York Thunder that day? None of that information shared. really disappointing in that front, and really disappointing to lose the second really special 3-year-old we've seen over the last 2 weeks, doing something incredibly special, and in the manner we lost them is just, it's horrific. And it's a gut punch, man. It is just an absolute gut punch to the sport, to someone who loves the sport, to the people who were there and saw it. I'm sorry. It's like, I can't even imagine being at Saratoga. I know Aaron and Jared, like Jared went for 2 weeks. It was the 2 weeks this happened. Like, it just absolutely brutal, and so hard to wake up excited the next morning about the sport when that's lingering over it.
Yeah, it was terrible, and obviously there's no replay that's posted on that you can see online, or at least official replay that you can find. But I still went ahead and I wasn't sure, but I was like, I'll post my reaction to it because I felt like it would be something other people could relate to, and based on the comments I got, it was pretty great. It's the only time that I've ever posted a video where I let myself drop the F-bomb in a recorded video and didn't edit it out or anything, because I was so angry and upset about what had happened. But yeah, everything is bad. Kevin B says Naira's CEO is a joke. Mike, I won't put you on the spot, but I'll agree with that. I know that Aaron did a big video talking about that as well after the Maple Leaf Mel situation. So it's, just the whole thing's terrible. I agree that I saw it earlier. Nick Seaver said why they didn't just cancel Sunday is crazy. I mean, it's just the mood Sunday morning at the track when you see like the training videos and pictures, it just felt like there was a big cloud hanging over it. It just felt dampened, and there's not a lot of noise during morning workouts anyways, other than just the usual horses going by, occasional someone shouts out something. But yeah, not a good situation. Let's move on from this spot, try and brighten things up a little bit, because this next race, we should have been, after the Ballerina Handicap, been just elated, losing our minds with how unbelievable performance Echo Zulu put on for the second straight start. She has now posted the co-highest buyer twice this year for any horse in America. Once for winning the Honorable Miss, now for winning the Ballerina Handicap. Absolutely amazing effort. But I will tell you, Mike, if you were watching live, the whole time as she came off the turn, you didn't breathe until she crossed for me it was on the gallop back. But until you knew everybody, including that speedy front runner, were safe, it was a tense situation. And instead of celebrating an absolutely awesome, epic performance from her, we're just sitting there praying, please bring 7 horses back home. So that's how it was watching it live. But if you got to see the replay later, what did you think of Echo Zulu?
Yeah, I can't imagine. Hopefully the mic's better now. I'm Magic, you mentioned that. I flipped
much
it
better. Yep.
So hopefully, I can't imagine sitting in the stands and holding your breath and crossing your fingers when you're seeing this type of performance, and not being able to celebrate Echo Zulu in the manner she should be celebrated because of what happened in the previous race is just, it's a shame. I mean, it's just so sad that you can't celebrate these type of efforts and these type of performances. Second great effort in a row here from Echo Zulu, and she took on all comers here early. I mean, Goodnight Olive, a little more forwardly placed, tried to press the pace against Echo Zulu, made a little bit of a move around the turn, and Echo Zulu just absolutely shrugged her off down the stretch here and did it in racehorse time. And 108 is very, very fast when you're going 7 furlongs, and she did that on her own and was very comfortable moving forward. I thought she ran phenomenally well. I thought Goodnight Olive ran pretty well here, considering Goodnight Olive's game isn't really too pressed. And I think Irad kind of realized, hey, we've got to be forward here if we want to have any shot at winning this and running down Echo Zulu late. There's no one else who's going to be able to press Echo Zulu. And if she's out there, she's gone. And so I like the tactics there from the Goodnight Olive team, but you're not going to be able to run with her. We saw about a 2.5 length difference there. It was about 6 lengths back to Maturay and Carmel Swirl. We're very close. Again, this Echo Zulu thing, like, she should definitely be the favorite in the Filly Mare Sprint, but Goodnight Olive definitely had the worst of the situation here, right? Where the gap probably not as big as what we saw on the racetrack, considering Goodnight Olive does not want to do what Goodnight Olive had to do to press Echo Zulu in any way. So another interesting one where I think, you're going to have a short price on Echo Zulu, a longer price on Goodnight Olive, and there's probably a bigger gap there than what you're going to necessarily see in the talent.
Michael Olsen, saying what I thought was correct. I like seeing Echo Zulu in the middle, kind of the same thing we saw with Tyler Gaffleone and Gun Knight earlier on the card. What did you think about Irad's decision with Goodnight Olive to put her very close to the lead? I thought that was the correct move with the way that the track was playing. It didn't play to her strength, and she ended up not winning and not capitalizing it, but she still finished second, very, 6 1/4 lengths clear of a grade 1 winner in Matarea. I thought it was the right move and it just didn't pay out. Did you agree with it?
Yeah, I don't know what else IRAD could have done here, because let's flip the script. Let's say IRAD doesn't go. Let's say Goodnight Olive sits fourth. What ends up happening? Echo
Zulu by a country mile.
And Goodnight Olive runs second, right?
Yeah.
So if you kind of know what's going to happen if Echo Zulu just gets to go, so you've got to figure out, okay, I'm the next best horse or the best horse in this race. Clearly, the two best equine athletes here in this race. So if you know that, and you know the other one has the pace edge, you've got to use your horse to try and force the hand of Echo Zulu and say, I got to make you work at least a little bit up there, and then making you put in the work allows me to get by. But it is very hard to press a elite world-class level sprinter and then also pass that sprinter late. Usually it's two horses press and someone picks up the pieces from off of it. You need the setup. You can't do the dirty work and finish the job a lot of times when you're in these sprints. And, Echo Zulu was able to get a little more comfortable. Goodnight Olive out of her game a little bit. And like I said, talent-wise, I don't think there's as big of a gap as you're going to see price-wise in these two horses when we move forward. So I'm not saying I hate Echo Zulu. Echo Zulu is a definite fade. I'm saying situationally, Goodnight Olive's price could be higher than it should be next time these two face because of what Goodnight Olive had to do in this race versus what Echo Zulu had to do in this race.
Echo Zulu's run line is it's a thing of beauty because she's only lost twice in 11 career starts. And you got to remember that means she's been facing stakes companies since her second career start. And almost all of them have been grade 1 races. There's very rarely that she's even dropped below grade 1. That's just because there aren't that many grade 1 sprint races for female horses. So she finishes 4th in the Kentucky Oaks. And at that point, I think we all knew, and you had been on this train for a long time, that she was better as a one-turn horse. The only time she lost, she finished second in the Breeders' Cup Filly Mare Sprint. So you would think that they will want to go back to the Filly Mare Sprint. That's a grade $1 million purse. Ron Esterman asked an interesting question. Echo Zulu to the sprint against the boys for $2 million. What do you think about that?
I thought about this right after this race. And I was like, well, why don't you just send Echo Zulu to the sprint? You get to go 6 instead of 7. I think there's an edge there for Echo Zulu. I don't think you do it with Gunite. I mean, that's the problem is you have Echo Zulu and Gunite and the Atchison barn. And the issue there is they both want to be forwardly placed. And so you'd have Gunite chasing Echo Zulu, and Gunite's best chance of winning the sprint is to have as slow of a pace as possible and be able to sit close to it. And Echo Zulu's best chance of winning the sprint would be have as slow of his pace possible and being on it. And so it's a situation where maybe you look at who's possibly being entered, and if it looks like Gunite's the speed, maybe you let Echo Zulu in and Echo Zulu goes and Gunite sits right off of it. But the issue is that the same barn is training the two horses that have similar running styles, and I think that's the main reason you would not see Echo Zulu in the sprint. I think that if this was Atchison's only sprint horse, and I do think Echo Zulu is better at 6 and 7, I think that you could make a reasonable argument why she should be in the sprint and not the Filly and Mare sprint. But I don't think that's going to end up happening.
I would send her the Filly Mare Sprint. This was 7 furlongs. That race is 7 furlongs. The Breeders' Cup Sprint is 6. We literally just talked about with the Gunite race. There's a lot of speed that goes to the Breeders' Cup Sprint, and it's a different kind of speed than what she faces a lot of times. So I would keep her in the Filly Mare Sprint. I think that's the correct decision for what you do there. What's interesting about Echo Zulu and Gunite, Asmussen said after the Forego, or I think perhaps it was Sunday, he said Echo Zulu is probably going to train up to the Breeders' Cup. Gunite is a horse that he loves training, he loves racing, so they'll probably give him one race in between before the Breeders' Cup Sprint. But they've been training against each other for most of their life, with each other for most of their lives. And he said poor Gunite has been facing Echo Zulu in the mornings most of his life. He's happy to face a horse like Elite Power because he's been facing Echo Zulu. So that says a lot. And also don't forget with Gunite, last year, he probably should have been in the sprint. He went to the dirt mile because Asmussen had, what was that horse's name? Nashville? You remember that horse that was an absolute freak and then was a complete no-show in the sprint? And I don't think we've seen him since then. So he likes to keep his horses separate. He also has another sprinter named Skelly that is on a 5-race win streak. If Skelly is going to be in training for the Breeders' Cup, that's another one he might throw into the sprint. So I'd keep them separated, but it is kind of fun to talk about. And maybe you send Echo Zulu to, you give her one grade 1 try against the boys, Cigar Mile before she retires. If they want to run her at 5, maybe that's when you take the shots. But go win your Breeders' Cup Filly Mare Sprint with her because she ran almost too good to lose it to Goodnight Olive last year.
Yeah, I think you leave her in the. Like I said, I never trust all that trainer speak. I'm not so sure that Goodnight Olive is like, or I'm sorry, Echo Zulu and Gunite. And Gunite's more excited to run against the elite power than train with Echo Zulu. I would be interested to see, like, if they ever did actually end up in a race, would them train together negatively affect them in that race? Because they would almost want to go heads up against each other. And if they've had this competition going back and forth that lasts 2 years now, how would that happen? How would that react? How would they react on the actual race day, seeing the other one there next to them? Or with the Gunite, for instance, a length and a half back, you're like, are you going to try and run down Echo Zoo early just because of that training issue too? So we'll see what happens, but I don't think Asmussen's going to end up having them in the same, both in the sprint. I think you're going to split them up.
I'm sorry, I was thinking of 2020 was Nashville. That was the horse that, yeah, never mind. It was Jackie's Warrior last year.
Yeah.
I feel like a complete jackass for forgetting about Jackie's Warrior. Thank you, Ron Osterman, for that correction.
He's pretty forgettable considering his Breeder Cup efforts.
Woo! That's, I'll stop you when you're telling lies. We'll move on. Race 11, the Sword Dancer Stakes, Grade 1 Breeders' Cup winning year in for the turf. By the way, totally forgot. Ballerina Handicap, Breeders' Cup winning in for the Filly Mare Sprint. So Echo Zulu punched her ticket. All that said, Bolshoi Ballet punches his ticket to the turf. He already heading back to Ireland. They're going to let him sit there for a minute, bring him back for the Grade 1 Joe Hirsch Turf Classic at Belmont Park, and target the Breeders' Cup turf at Santa Anita Park. You had the correct call on this horse. I thought Johnny V rode him very well, and he made the rest of these horses, which wasn't that great of a field, look pretty weak.
Yeah, I thought Bolshoi Ballet ran very, very well. Trust the real, not the fake here. Stone Age in the Brown Barn instead of the Aidan O'Brien barn. We saw what happened when the Aidan O'Brien horse comes over and absolutely rolls. I will say this for Stone Age. Pretty bad trip. And people like say, oh, that wasn't that bad of a trip. It going too wide 3 turns is not a good trip. And then for Stone Age to have to like literally press a Channel Maker, I realize is not, I don't know what to say about Channel Maker. I'm going to say it's not that great. So I realize Stone Age has to press Channel Maker, but like never gets a break in the race. And as soon as Stone Age gets to the front, immediately attacked by Bolshoi Ballet. So absolutely no breather at any point for Stone Age. So I'm going to kind of take the Stone Age effort with a little bit of grain of salt here. But Bolshoi Ballet ran phenomenal. Soldier Rising did exactly what Soldier Rising does. And look, our boy Daunt, we said, going to get 4th. There he is, sitting in that 4th spot.
Yeah, good call on that one. The Pioneering Spirit and Soldier Rising, if you want to take a horse out of this, maybe either of those. Nah, not Pioneering Spirit. I take that back. Soldier Rising. God, is he ever going to win one? It feels like he's just sitting. He's like Gufo 2.0, like Kevin B says in the chat. He's sitting on a win at this. You can feel it. You just don't know where it's going to happen. And it's not going to be the Breeders' Cup, right? There's no way in hell that would just be like, he's going to be like 30-1 that day.
I'm going to go with more of Rock Emperor as the Soldier Rising.
Oh,
because I don't actually think Soldier Rising has won a race in the U.S. I think it's been a minute, or it either hasn't happened or been a minute. This horse ran second, first time in the U.S., just has consistently been knocking on the door and just never able to get it done. You mentioned not a great state field. Pioneering Spirit, Linda Rice horse, who had won 3 straight on the turf coming into this, but literally been like an allowance or a claimer 3 back and just kind of taking steps up on the turf ladder, I guess, and now getting up there and running 3rd in a Grade 1 like this, kind of surprising and shows you how good the field was. I got to say, Channel Maker not hitting the board was one of the least surprising things after Channel Maker won last time out. But yeah, this is not a great race, and Bolshoi Ballet came able to come in, chip in, and get the job done.
Kevin bringing up an interesting point. Pioneering Spirit being bet more than freaking Bolshoi Ballet is insane. You got to realize Bolshoi Ballet had a very rough form coming into this spot, and Pioneering Spirit was undefeated since Linda Rice had claimed him and put him onto the turf, and it's Linda freaking Rice. Like, there was a reason for that. Now, I did see someone make a point a few weeks ago that I thought was correct, is that, and I was going to pay attention to how the meet went, is Linda Rice does fantastic with these horses at Saratoga until she puts them into these big stakes races, and then they just don't show up with that same effort. So something interesting to say at Car Ramrod, for Rice horse winning 40K maiden claimers 3 months ago, won a Grade 1, I might never bet Naira again. Yeah, that might do it.
It looked like Pioneering Spirit had a shot in this race too at one point. Before Bolshoi Ballet really opened up, it was like, wait a second here. This Pioneering Spirit looks pretty good. And then obviously Soldier Rising just started chewing up ground late, but just never in time.
Yeah. somebody from Europe or Japan is going to win this division. Maybe Soldier Rising is a good horse to key underneath because you're going to get a good price on him. And damn it, he tries hard. I mean, at the very back of the field on this yielding turf that I don't think a lot of these horses struggle to get over. For him to gobble up the ground and be 5.5 lengths clear of third place, even if it was a 40K maiden claimer in Pioneering Spirit, I didn't hate it. It just the Bolshoi Ballet can't be a turf winner this year.
I mean, Soldier Rising also probably a pretty fast final quarter of a mile there too. If Bolshoi Ballet did it in sub 24 and Soldier Rising was going as fast as he was, I bet that was a very, very fast final quarter. Just again, too much work to do coming down the lane to try and catch Bolshoi Ballet, who sat a perfect trip, by the way, inside every single turn, was able to go to the 2-path and then go right around the 7-horse Stone Age at the top of the stretch and just open up up front. I mean, absolutely beautiful ride by John Velasquez to save every inch of ground and just go forward with it.
I'm going to see if I can find the Equibase. I was going to see if I could figure out how fast he actually finished that.
I can pull it up if you want to keep moving forward.
We'll move forward. Yeah, that's fine.
I can pull it up on DRF.
Go for it. I'll finalize this with the Grade 1 Travers Stakes, Saturday, August 26th, race 12. This was a race we were looking forward to. I will say, even though for my top pick, Forte didn't win, I thought this race pretty much lived up to the hype. Forte didn't quite show up with it, but Arcangelo, what an impressive effort from this horse. What an amazing training job from Jenna Antonucci. First time since 2004 that the Travers Stakes winner didn't have a prep in between that and winning the Belmont. Misses 2.5 months. Mile and a half, mile and a quarter, don't make no difference. Just like his daddy Arcangelo did. His daddy Arrogate. Arcangelo wins the Travers Stakes. Talk up to me first about the winner before we move on. What do you think about Arcangelo?
Did you see it's a blinker super? 4 horses with blinkers. 1, 2, 3, 4, no blinkers. 4, 5, 5, 6, 7. That's easy game. That's all you got to do. Just handicap.
That's all you got to do. Box up the blinkers.
I thought Arcangelo got a phenomenal trip, a phenomenal ride, ran very well, handled the track very well, which clearly was a factor in this race. We'll get to that a little bit later. But just beautiful ride from Javier Castellano, sitting right behind those 3 horses going into the stretch, being able to go 4 wide, get the first run on everybody, and really Disarm saves all the ground, but had to check when Scotland was coming back there a little bit. So Disarm had to check in the stretch, go inside of Scotland over what seemed like an almost 0 hole. I mean, there was no room there whatsoever. And Joel Rosario kind of threaded the needle, then had to flip outside of Arcangelo, was still closing late on him, although I'm not sure how much that was Castellano putting in cruise control and Disarm running him down. Look, great race here by Arcangelo, great trip from Castellano, great training job by Jenna Antonucci. I don't know what to make of this race, though. I've watched it like 4 times. This is a career worst effort from at least 4 horses in this field. Like, this is as bad as we've seen Forte. This is as bad as we've seen National Treasures. This is as bad as we've seen Scotland. This is as bad as we've seen Mage. All of them just didn't do much at all. And Disarm and Arcangelo able to take advantage of it. Tapit Trice, interesting to see him a little more forwardly placed with the blinkers. Never saved an inch of ground, though. Was 3 wide on the first turn, 3 wide on the second turn. I thought he ran pretty well here to hold on to third. But again, everyone behind him just didn't fire at all. So just a very odd race from that perspective. But Arcangelo, Javier Castellano did a phenomenal job of getting this thing done.
Yeah, they'll absolutely loved everything about this effort from Arcangelo. Let's talk about Disarm. Boy, this guy was Johnny Tryhard. This might be what we thought Mage was, which was a horse that's always going to show up and give you a great effort. Mage disappointed quite badly here. Disarm did not. Disarm actually was gaining. Arcangelo had a 3-length lead at the top of the stretch, and his final margin of victory was just a length. And when I was pulling up photos from the race for today, I forgot that Disarm was right there in all of these photos. You can see him showing up. So a great sign from him. Is he ever going to be like a classic style winner, though? Because I'm worried with his running style, Mike. He just needs an epic pace collapse in front of him, and that just at long distances on dirt just really doesn't happen that much.
I mean, if Disarmed hadn't gotten stopped, I think he might have won this race. I think it was that close. That the issue that's like Scotland backing up and Disarmed trying to go in the inside. Joel Rosario has to actually pull up and then fight back through that little hole on the inside. I thought it was a big effort. I mean, I don't know what to make of this race. I really don't, because we talked about the track and how a lot of horses didn't like it. And you see this not fired or not good. I don't know how we can say Forte and Mage aren't good, right? That's one of my biggest issues with the not fired, not good thing. I mean, we have multiple race track record here that supports that they are good horses, and these are clearly not their best efforts. I mean, you saw Mage. He was a mess in the front stretch. He was a mess around the turn. He was a mess in the back stretch. Platt never even asked him for anything once they got to the far turn. And Forte just was spinning his wheels, and you've just never seen Forte spin his wheels ever, except for that second race of his career where the track was impossible to close on. So I'm not sure what to make with both those. Scotland, National Treasure, yeah, you can say, okay, they are probably a couple low here. Scotland stepping up big time. National Treasure, I think we all agree that Preakness specifically was a pace added win because of what the setup was. But I don't know how much credit I'm willing to give to this race overall, because Disarm ran second, because Forte and Mage didn't run well, because Tapit Trice was 3 wide all the way and I thought ran pretty good. To me, this was just an upside down race in a lot of ways. And there's too many data points that were illogical to me going into the race that happened that make me want to think this is a very logical race to take a ton from going out of it.
I see people blaming, and I saw this all weekend too, people were blaming Pratt for Mage's defeat there. But I'm watching the replay back again now for how he broke. And he broke well, which is not something we've seen a lot from Mage. He broke well, but then you had the issue where Forte and Irad just came out into the 3 path, which pushed Arcangelo. Luckily, Tapit Trice is Tapit Trice, so he was already 6 lengths back. But Arcangelo gets forced out into Mage, and then you had National Treasure and Scotland all both trying to come down, and Scotland did do it. And at that point, I mean, Pratt had to... People are saying he choked him. Pratt had to pull him back because he was about to clip heels with Scotland. And then you had Arcangelo go inside of Forte. It pushes Mage 3 wide. And then he drops back to the rear. And then after that, it was just not that. It's just a bad situation all around for there. I think you can scratch off Mage's effort here. I did kind of like, this sounds weird, Pratt knew he had nothing left through the turn. Just kind of let the horse come home. But we'll see what they do with Mage, because we've seen a lot better efforts from him. Look at the Haskell. Look at, obviously, the Kentucky Derby. Look at the Florida Derby. He is a very talented horse, just like Forte. Wasn't their day. I did hear that Mage and Forte, from people who were there, both of them were not acting well beforehand as well. So you've got that to consider. Tapit Trice getting third, I think, was a big surprise to me. The blinkers seemed like they helped him, right? He hit the board in the Grade 1 Travers Stakes. The problem is, Mike, I wanted him to kind of do poorly here and keep the blinkers, and then next race I'd get him at 20, 30 to 1. I was like, that's the time you play Tapit Trice, second time blinkers. What do you do with him moving forward?
Who knows? I mean, honestly, who the hell knows what you do with Tapit Trice? I think Tapit Trice is probably best with the blinkers on, not on the lead, saving ground and then tilting out, but he hates being inside of horses. So the best possible running style for him is a running style he hates. And so it's hard to really be like, okay, this is how we're going to see this horse run its best possible race. I think Tapit Trice is just overhyped at this point and needs to drop down at the Grade 2 level, the Grade 3 level, or the Mid-American Derby, where you're not facing these upper tier. And I think there's a lot of different takes in the chat that are interesting. First off, this one. This is not the second. Arcangelo and Mage only faced once. This is the first time they faced. Yeah, it is the second time National Treasure beating him, which I was kind of surprised there. And National Treasure,
never should have taken the blinkers off of him. That was so stupid.
I don't know why they had the blinkers off. I don't know why National Treasure didn't go either. That to me was as surprising as anything else. That
Johnny let Scotland go.
Who set the pace. And John, what we saw with National Treasure in the Preakness is Velasquez just pushing everybody out. You could have done the exact same thing here and won the race to the turn and then just tried to hold on. For some reason, that wasn't the choice. And that's, again, Chris, rating National Treasure, it was a decision. Yeah, it was. And it was an interesting one. Not sure what we're doing there. So just really interesting. I think someone brought up here, and this is Nick, I wonder if this group was better early and now have just gotten caught up in past. I think that definitely could be the case, where some of these 3-year-olds have not progressed in the summer in the way we may have thought. I still to me, this is a line through it race for 4 of these horses. I'm not going to take this as a solid data point because of how many struggled with the track, how they were acting before it, how the race ran out. This is just kind of muddies up this whole 3-year-old picture in my mind, because yes, you have to upgrade Arcangelo. Don't get me wrong there. But so if Disarm and Forte are both in the Breeders' Cup Classic, everyone who's shitting on Forte wants Disarm at a shorter price. I'm assuming that's what they're saying. Because I don't think anyone would bet that.
No.
So, like, to me, there's just, you got to be willing to say in this spot, there's a lot of things in this race that were funky that I'm just willing to kind of be like, okay, just let it go. And we'll see where they come out of this, because I don't want to take too much away from this race and overreact to this race, which causes me to be in some bad situations wagering on these horses in the future.
This is I'm going through now and reading all this stuff in the chat. This is you're right. There've been some to take. We're not teasing, just teasing, by the way. But please keep bringing your takes, whether Mike and I agree with them or not. I mean,
I kind of like this one.
Doesn't really matter.
I like this one. Rob coming in hot. Red Route 1 better than Tap at Trice. I mean, I don't hate it. I mean, Red Route 1 needs the setup, but I like.
So does Tap at Trice.
And
Red Route 1 actually wins.
Yeah. So, you know, and that one's just mean. Mage would dust Rich Strike. Not even close if they're both run their best race.
Well, yeah, Rich Strike is with Bill Mott. If you want Rich Strike to win that match race, you send him to Victor Barboza Jr. down in Florida. By the way, it's a complete tangent here. You remember Long Range Toddy? Hadn't won a race since the 2020 Rebel. Yeah. He's now won 2 straight since he got sent to Victor Barboza Jr. at Gulfstream Park, and he's looked like he's setting career high buyers down there. Everybody talk about Linda Rice. Somebody go investigate Barboza. I know he gets investigated a lot. Somebody go take care of Barboza. This is ridiculous. Anyways, Long Range Toddy has won twice, and he looks like the second coming of Pharaoh all of a sudden. All right, so this was not an official Breeders' Cup winning urine for the Classic, but I would assume Arcangelo goes there and probably will go there fresh, right? That's how he came into this one. Disarm is probably going to go that direction. The other horses, do you go Classic, do you go Dirt Mile, or do you pass on the Breeders' Cup with them?
I would guess Forte and Mage both go to the Classic.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be shocked if National Treasure ends up in the Dirt Mile. And I think Tapit Trice and Scotland probably don't end up in anything.
I think I agree with you on that one. Assuming everybody, of course, is training well, comes out of this race okay, yada yada yada, all that trainer BS. Breeders' Cup. Sorry,
what about Tapit Trice to the marathon? Wouldn't that just be like the way to end the year? Everyone's Belmont horse wins the Breeders' Cup marathon.
That would be kind of funny. Yeah. And that race, I mean, as long as Lone Rock and Diodoro's Juice aren't in there, usually that race goes to the things collapse and it's just one horse that's grinding everybody out because he's like, 2 miles? Yeah, this is nothing. Let's go.
Well, our boy ran second in that race. If he can run second, Tapit Trice could at least hit the board.
That's true. Shit. Could I get like somebody, Tis a Magician, Tapit Trice trifecta. Play it straight. Damn. We're never going to get that. One more race to talk about from this past weekend, the Grade 2 Pat O'Brien Stakes. It's Breeders' Cup winning for the Dirt Mile. It's a 7 furlong sprint. Go figure that one out. Anarchist wins this race. I don't want any of these horses in the Dirt Mile. I want to bring this up because I want none of these. I don't think Anarchist even wants 7 furlongs, let alone 8 in 2 turns.
No, I don't. I mean, CZ Rocket is probably going to be in the Dirt Mile. We'll see what happens there. I don't like anybody here in the Dirt Mile, though. I mean, maybe I'm a sucker for Spirit of McKenna at some point again. And we talked a little about Spirit of McKenna before the show. Got an absolute awful trip in, what was that, the Bing Crosby. Now comes back into Pat O'Brien. And I don't know why Joe Bravo decided to go 21-3 with this horse early, but we did. And we're on the lead, and then makes the lead at the top of the stretch and just gasses out way before the finish line. Still think there's a lot of talent there. I think we just need to trip at some point. Maybe now Spirit of McKenna comes back and you're looking at 6-7 to 1 instead of 3 to 1. But you kind of need something between the Breeders' Cup Sprint and this if you're going to actually bet the horse in the Breeders' Cup Sprint as well, especially with what we saw from the West Coast. Look, this is like a B, maybe C level group of sprinters right now. Is that fair?
I think that's generous. Listen, maybe Brickyard Ride, you'd assume that he's a speedball. He'll probably go to the sprint. Spirit of McKenna, I would assume that these horses, they target the Breeders' Cup. They target the Santa Anita Sprint Championship, which is a win in urine for the sprint. Hoist the Gold didn't really show up, which I kind of thought was disappointing. He was, other than what happened with Spirit of McKenna, I thought Hoist the Gold was a little disappointing. Yeah, no, I don't want anything from this. I have it highlighted here on the screen. Look at those final splits. 25-1, 13.5 to finish. Like, these are slow caballos. These are not fast horses going for the dirt mile. Cody's Wish would have inhaled Anarchist at the 3/16 and shit him out by the time Anarchist actually crossed the wire. Like,
all you really need to know about this race is that Bye Bye Bobby was dead last in 10th, dead last in 10th, dead last in 10th, and 33-1, and was flying at the end to make it. It's not close, but at least, like, you know, you had to pause a little bit there because it got within a length. I mean, you rarely see stumble bunnies in a grade 2. There was a lot of stumble bunnies when we turned for home here, and look at the times. I mean, 21-3, 24-2, like, it just flying early causes an absolute collapse late.
It was a ridiculous race. But listen, it's not Del Mar's fault. And then, speaking of Del Mar, Mike, they've got their main event of the entire meet coming up this weekend, the 2023 Pacific Classic. This is a win and you're in for the Breeders' Cup Classic. Looks like it's going to be a possible field of 9 here. We'll go through them, starting with the 3-year-olds. Go Rocket Ride is going to go here, as will Arabian Night and Skinner, which is really interesting because, especially for Skinner, there is the shared belief stakes. It's ungraded. It's restricted to 3-year-olds. There's, like, you know, the 23rd best Baffert that's still alive is a 3-year-old right now is going to go into the shared belief and probably win it. I'm surprised Skinner's going here and not there, but between these 3-year-olds, any interest in them for the Pacific Classic to win it?
I mean, the lack of respect being shown toward the older horses by entering Skinner in here tells you pretty much all you need to know about the older horses in California right now. Am I crazy to think this is Arabian Night and Go Rocket Ride? Like, it feels like they should be the 2 betting favorites in this race, and they are 2 most likely winners of this race. I think it says a lot that you chose to be here instead of being in the Travers, a race we just talked about, which for 3-year-olds, $1 million race. Instead, you're going here. You're running in the Pacific Classic. I get you're staying home. I understand that, but rarely do you see 3-year-olds running the Pacific Classic. It's not something we see where it's 3 every year, and this year you've got 3 of them, including Skinner. So when you scroll down, it's like, I kind of get it though. I mean, it's Stiletto Boy. It's like, it just
Rolly.
It's our boy. What's his face? Slow Down Andy, and it's American Admiral. It's Tripoli, and it's just like, oh, okay, all right. We're just running this back from 3 years ago to see who can win the Pacific Classic. So I think it's the 3-year-olds here. I think it's Go Rocket Ride. I think it's American Lion, and I think it's going to be a good race.
You've got Tripoli in here. Which is, I love this quote from John Sadler. He said, Tripoli was 5th in the prep, which was the grade 2 San Diego, and the jockey said he had some trouble. With good luck, he would have been 2nd. I will remind you, Senior Buscador won the San Diego Handicap. He didn't lose to Arabian Night, Go Rocket Ride, defunded. He lost to Senior Buscador, and Sadler's response is, oh, with good luck, we would have been 2nd to that horse. Let's go to the Pacific Classic. I think we can. Now, this horse won in 2021, but no offense to our boy Tiz the Magician. Tiz the Magician was 2nd in that race. That was, like, people were saying before the race went off that might have been the worst quality field the Pacific Classic's ever had in its existence. So, yeah, the fact that he's there. You've got Katona, who won the Pleasanton Mile, and that's what up north on the fair circuit, and that's what gives him the right to come in the Pacific Classic. At least the 3-year-olds are here because, especially with no defunded, this is like Stiletto Boy and a whole bunch of
Yeah, I mean, we're going to learn a lot in this race about if Stiletto Boy wins by open lengths, we've found out all we need to know about this 3-year-old class at that point, right? I mean, because Go Rocket Ride was able to beat Mage, looked very good. We were all high on that horse early in the season. If Go Rocket Ride gets dusted in this race and it's not by Arabian Night, this could be just like an epically wide open classic.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Kevin said I posted up because I thought it was funny. He said Repo Rocks would win by 10 lengths here. I think he was talking about the Pat O'Brien. If it wasn't for the 3-year-olds, he might win this race by 10 lengths, though. Some other older horses, you know, that are out here. Practical Move, actually, sorry, not older horse, but 3-year-old. Practical Move's coming back, but I don't think the Breeders' Cup is even going to be in play for him. I would be very surprised. I think they take their time with him, and it's a 4-year-old campaign. And after, you know, defunded, it would probably come back as a 6-year-old. Stiletto Boy might come back, but there's a big opening on the California dirt circuit next year for older horses. I think for Yak Teen, that's the right thing to do with Practical Move, and you know, the horse has done a world of good for him this year. I think he's going to take his time there, but Yeah, defunded waiting for the awesome again, I guess. That's a Breeders' Cup winning you're in. I don't know. I'm with you. I think it's Go Rocket Ride, Arabian Night. Now, let me ask you this. Looking at this probable field here, does Arabian Night turn the tables on the Haskell? Because he was third that day. It's a race that Baffert wins a lot. People thought Arabian Night was going to do it, and Go Rocket Ride got the tables turned. So, or Go Rocket Ride beat him. So, does Arabian Night turn the tables in the Pacific Classic?
I like Go Rocket Ride right now. I like the way that I talked about Go Rocket Ride on Monday. Or last Monday when we were talking about top 3-year-olds, I'm not really going to flip the script here and say he's not going to get the job done. So I'm still in the Go Rocket Ride camp. We'll see what the prices are, see how that affects it, see what the pace setup is, go through everything when we have final entries. But the early look would be Go Rocket Ride for me.
God bless Del Mar. They're doing the draw for this Tuesday, so we'll actually know this field before Saratoga's Saratoga Saturday card is drawn. So I don't understand the move. If you're going to draw one race, you wait till the next day to draw the rest of them. Like, why not just do all of them? But hey, beggars can't be choosers. We should be happy that something good is happening with this.
So I just also got an email from my racehorse telling me that I no longer own any part of Tis the Magician.
Dude, I got that. Well, yeah, they finally did the payout. I thought that was kind of nice that we at least got like a little extra $22 payout.
Yeah.
Right?
That part of my life.
Man, there it is. There's that email. Yep. Yeah.
See, we talk about him, and the devil doth appear.
We didn't make money on him.
No, that's the thing. If you're investing in my racehorse to make money, don't. If you're doing it to have fun, okay, cool. But yes, you ended up losing $23 on Tis the Magician, even after everything.
We spent $320 for a share of Tis the Magician. I thought it was half that.
I thought it was $162, so I kind of assumed I bought 2 shares.
Well, you know what? Maybe I did too. Maybe that's what happened. All right, we were both thinking it was 160 for that one. Yeah, we don't get any of that stud fee. No, we do not. He wasn't a grade 1 winner, so we didn't even get a bonus on that. But oh well.
Tripoli.
Well, that's going to do it for this episode of the Magic Mike Show. Thanks for joining Mike and I to talk about everything from Saratoga. Hopefully it was cathartic for you. The chat, you guys were really great. Really appreciate the comments, keeping everything civil, keeping everything, with such an emotional topic. It was the chat. You guys were wonderful. And then once we got to talking about the Breeders' Cup rankings and stuff, things really took off. So that was a lot of fun. If you haven't yet, subscribe to youtube.com/racingdudes because now the focus is going to be the Breeders' Cup. We have just over 2 months left for the World Championships at Santa Anita Park, the first Friday and Saturday of November. That's what our focus is going to be now. Now that the Travers is done, Saratoga will be done after this weekend. Thank God we can move forward for that. So make sure you subscribe. Make sure you're going to racingdudes.com and checking out all of the previews that we have, the news videos that we have, and of course the Somobombs, Mike. And you mentioned that you hit the late pick 4 at Del Mar on Sunday. So tip of the cap, you've been doing pretty well at Del Mar this meet.
Yeah, Del Mar has been absolutely rolling. Saratoga has been frustrating because it seems like you hit like 4 out of 5 every time. It's the one random horse that gets you. But Del Mar absolutely been rolling all meet. Hopefully we can keep it up this weekend.
Over here, oops, I put the overlay up too soon. Over here at racingdudes.com, you can check out the top 5 horses right now by division. Of course, Aaron put Arcangelo first for the 3-year-olds. But take a look at the video to find out where he ranks among the top 5 horses overall. That's older horses, that's fillies and mares, that's turf, that's going short, going long. Check that out there. We've got the previews up from the week ahead if Saratoga does run. Not 100% sure they're going to run the rest of this meet here, but we've got the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday previews. And of course, Kentucky Downs is back. We are not going to be covering them as much as we have in the past because they decided to jack the takeout way up. And the only thing that was nice about Kentucky Downs was that because otherwise I think I would go 1 for 5 quite frequently there, so don't have that. Like, but it is Kentucky Downs. What's that?
You don't like the camera angles? It's the only racetrack.
Oh God, I forgot about that.
It's the only racetrack I've ever seen the winner's photo taken in a photo finish, like in the winner's circle, and then the photo comes out and it was the other horse. I still remember that happening last year. That was pretty classic. And there was an article on DRF today that really pissed me off because they mentioned, we raised the purses $6 million, but we had to raise takeout because we had to pay HISA $650K. And I'm sitting there thinking, why couldn't you just raise the purses $4 million and pay his $650K and not raise the takeout? Like you could have just done this another way instead of screwing over the horse player. So that was a little bit frustrating. I miss Sam Houston still. I know Davey just mentioned I miss Lone Star. Oh,
sorry. I was thinking that's what you were talking about.
I miss Sam Houston too. Yeah, and Car Ramrod. I miss Sam Houston. I mean, it's amazing. There's like literally the best tracks to bet right now going, and we can't bet them because of Hissa, who is also costing us, according to Kentucky Downs, a raised takeout there as well, which is kind of ridiculous. So absolute mess there. It's a shame. I'll probably play the tournaments in Kentucky Downs, but I'm probably not going to be firing very big.
Yeah, we'll have, like I said, we'll have coverage on the website for that. As far as the actual previews go, if it's a slow week, we might do something. Otherwise, yeah, not really sure we're going to keep going down that road. But once more things, sorry, go ahead.
Real quick, the 1% takeout, I agree. Not a huge raise. Here's the problem. You raise the purses $5 million, and then you raise the takeout. You just raised the look. No one wasn't going to Kentucky Downs because the purses weren't big enough. The purses were fine as they were. They're already massive. You don't need to then go, oh, we're going to do $5 million more just so we make sure we get the. It's already easily the highest purses of any freaking meet. All you're doing is raising the purses because you want to say you raised the purses. Fine, do it $2 million and don't raise the takeout. Like there are so many other ways this could have been done, but to justify it then with we're raising it $5 million in the same interview, say, oh, by the way, the $650K from his is why we're raising takeout is just asinine. It's like bragging about this over here and then saying, but I need some money over here so that we can pay for this other thing. It's just ridiculous.
I got the opening day card pulled up here. The lowest purse is actually the maiden special weights, $150,000. They have literally $250,000 allowance races there.
So let's do quick math. 400, what's that? 550, 700, 950. So there's about just under $2 million in purses. They just lowered those purses by 20%. You could pay the Hissa fee just in one day. I mean, it's just it's ridiculous that you're saying, oh, well, we need to take this out of the gambler's pocket after we've already raised everything over here. Literally 10x what we're being fined.
The where is I was trying to find, they don't have any starter allowance races carded yet, but like the starter allowance races are triple digits. Like that's ridiculous. Like I get that no, that's just ridiculous. Don't do that. Power to the horse players. That's what we say here. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. I'm at Curtis Kellard. He's at Somobomb 18, number 1, number 8. The NFL season is starting soon. The actual season, not the bullshit preseason. And if you want some great NFL advice and tips and picks, follow this guy right here. He's pretty damn sharp at that stuff. I got some sharp money going on with Mike Somich's NFL picks. So make sure you check him out for that. Corporal Warlords at Racing_Dudes. Huge weekend for Labor Day. We've got Jockey Club Gold Cup, Flower Bowl, Hopeful, Spinaway Stakes, of course, the Pacific Classic. Lots of fun happening over at racingdudes.com. Any final words, Mr. Somich?
Yeah, you're making fun of the preseason bets. I believe I was 3-0 in the preseason this weekend on Dudes Who Bet Daily when I sent picks in.
You were 2.5-0.
Well, no, okay.
The Lions won. You don't get credit for the Lions. You screwed up on that one.
But the Titans won, which is the one I was trying to bet, and that under cashed pretty easily last night as well.
Yeah, that's true. All right. I wasn't making fun of you for that. It's more just that the preseason in general to me is just it's not
undefeated
real.
On Dudes Who Bet Daily, and this is the shit he takes on Monday. Unbelievable.
You did a lot better than I did on Dudes Who Bet Daily, which is every Thursday through Sunday at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Make sure you like the video if you haven't. And of course, once again, subscribe to youtube.com/racingdudes. Why'd I do that? That was crazy. Until Thursday when we're back for probably Pacific Classic Day at Del Mar. We'll cover that on Thursday's show. I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
Good luck this week.
The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by racingdudes.com.